Okay, I think we're ready to start.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Parker Stribling,
My name is Colin Willett.
and we are your hosts for Mamba Mentality Book Club, and we discuss Kobe Bryant's words of wisdom with different speakers each day. Don't forget, you can earn points like PS4 and Xbox gift cards, Chick-fil-A gift cards, and gaming headsets in the prize shop by just commenting down. Today has been a Power Hands takeover, and they have brought Irv Rowland to talk about the love of the game. Let's get started.
Earn prizes again.
Xbox and PS4 gift cards, Chick-fil-A gift cards, and gaming headsets. To redeem these prizes, you gotta go to beyondball.net.
All right, we just need a few more minutes. We're waiting on our special guest.
Set up and
Good evening.
What's going on?
Nothing much. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Go ahead, Parker.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rowland.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Mhm. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became one of the top trainers for NBA players?
Yeah, man. So I played Division II basketball in Oklahoma. I graduated in 2004, but going into my senior year of college, I met a coach from the Celtics, and he promised me an internship once I graduated. So once I graduated, I moved to Boston and I started working for the Celtics as an intern, breaking down game film for the coaching staff. And I spent one season there in Boston. I left there after that season and went to New Orleans. It was Chris Paul's rookie year. So I was with the Hornets from Chris Paul's rookie year to 2010. And after that year, I moved to Miami. I started a business down there. and I trained Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, a number of different guys in Miami. That was the year of the lockout, 2011. So after that, I moved to Phoenix. I was with the Suns from 2013 to 2016. And then from there, the Houston Rockets, so 16 and 19 with the Rockets. So just a lot of years in this game, man, longer than y'all alive, and just being able to be around, the top players and build relationships and things like that.
So you built a successful business training NBA players, and I've seen that you train the youth. Who shows improvement faster, pros or younger athletes?
Say it one time.
Who shows improvement faster in their game, pros or younger athletes?
The younger players, because they still have so much room to grow. With the NBA players, they're kind of stuck. I mean, not stuck, but they kind of are what they are. It's kind of hard to show major growth at a certain point in life. But with the young developing players, they're still growing. They're still learning the game. So you see more improvement, more of a jump in those younger ages compared to the NBA guys.
Do you think staying around the game of basketball is just as good as playing it?
I mean, obviously, financially, I'd love to be playing the game of basketball and making millions of dollars, but that's not going to be realistic for everybody. For NBA players, there's only 450 jobs to make an NBA roster, and so for myself, obviously, basketball paid for college, so I took that burden off of my parents, and also, I've been able to travel the world, see the world, and work with pretty much every all-star you guys have, grown up admiring and things like that. So even though I'm not playing the game and making the same amount of money those guys are making, I'm still making a really good living and still a great quality of life just being able to be around the game of basketball.
Can you tell us some of the players that you have trained and train right now?
Yeah, so I was just with Trae Young yesterday. I've worked with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Chris Paul, Joe Johnson. For the most part, at some point in their careers, CJ McCollum, like Stephen Curry, I've worked with a lot of players at different stages of their career, whether high school, college, NBA, because outside of just coaching in the NBA, I also work a lot of high-level basketball camps that these guys are going to be at some stage, like I said, in their career. Ja Morant, a number of guys.
When you train these players, do you work on a specific part of their game, or do they tell you what you want to work on?
Yeah, there's some guys, for instance, that come in and tell me, hey, I want to focus on this, I want to focus on that. But for the most part, they come to me because they trust me to kind of study their game film and know kind of where they're lacking and what they need to focus on.
All right, that's it for me, man.
I have one more question.
Talk to me.
Okay, so you said all the players you've trained. Which one of them has shown the most growth? Most growth, my bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've known James since he was 19, James Harden since he was 19. And so I wasn't his primary trainer all of those years. I was his primary trainer for 3 straight years, but I've worked with him pretty much every year since he was 19 years old. And I guess he would probably be the person that I've seen the most growth in because, we started when he was in college all the way up until when he was a, MVP in the NBA. So being able to see him from, one of the best players in college to, kind of a role player for Oklahoma City, being a 6-man and things like that to, an MVP player, I've got to see a ton of growth in him.
Did you see that step back?
Man, so with his step back, he has the best footwork in the NBA. He has the best feet as far as being able to start. So his step back kind of became something that he kind of added to his game just by basically dancing with the basketball and being able to be creative and not a lot of players have the opportunity with their teams to get the basketball and make multiple dribbles like that. And so he plays so much basketball. He's always being creative. So he has a little more leeway than the average guy.
All right. We have a quote of the day from Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
I remember when, as a kid, I got my first basketball. I loved the feel of it in my hands. I was so enamored with the ball that I didn't actually want to bounce it or use it because I didn't want to ruin the pebbled leather grains or their perfect grooves. I didn't want to ruin the feel. I love the sound of it too. The tap, tap, tap of when a ball bounces on the hard wood, the crispness, the clarity, and the predictability. The sound of life and light. There are some elements that I loved about the ball, about the game. They were at the core and at the root of my process and craft. They were the reasons I went through all that I went through, put in all that I put in, and dug as deep as I dug. It all came back to that special tap, tap, tap that I first grew infatuated with as a boy. Today, we're talking about the love of the game, and we all know Kobe worked harder than anyone to become one of the best. Can you tell us about your relationship with Kobe Bryant and how can we learn from his example?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to work with Kobe through my relationship with Phil Handy, who's a coach for the LA Lakers, and we had a camp last August at the old Mamba Academy. So we had about 20 players, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Isaiah Thomas, to name a few. And with Kobe, I think later in his career and then after, he retired, he became more of like an open book as far as being able to open up and share knowledge. When you're still playing the game, you're competitive and you're trying to outwork people, you're trying to win, you're trying to keep a competitive edge. And so you're less likely to share kind of your secrets and give insight because you're trying to, stay ahead of everyone. But once he retired and, was coaching his daughter and, helping young coaches like myself and young players in the NBA, he became, like I said, more of an open book. And so I was, fortunate enough before he passed to work a couple camps with him. We did the NBA camp. And then the week before he passed away, we did a WNBA camp with some of the top WNBA girls at the academy. And, like I said, I was fortunate enough to be able to pick his brain and, ask questions about, how I can help younger players at all levels and, some of the things that he did to help separate himself and things that made him great. And, with Kobe, it's just like any other successful person. They're going out and they're doing the things every day that most people aren't willing to do. So most people they're not going to be honest with themselves. Like most people say they work hard, but are you really giving every ounce of energy and effort towards your craft and towards your dream? Most people, for instance, in basketball, they'll go work out with their basketball team and they'll work out hard for that hour and a half, 2 hours. But are you going home? Are you studying game film? Are you practicing on your own? Are you trying to understand the hows and the whys of the game of basketball? And so with Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, any successful person, they truly wanted more. And I think, like I said, a lot of people, they're not willing to go that extra mile and put that effort in. And that's why he was able to accomplish the things that he did.
Are there any lessons we can learn from him off the court just as much as we can on the court?
Yeah, I think one thing that always stood out to me with Kobe was when he first came into the NBA, obviously he came out of high school. And when you're fresh out of high school and then you move to Los Angeles, California, Los Angeles, Miami, LA, New York, Vegas, like all these cities, they bring a lot of distraction, women, drugs, the party scene, all these things. And Kobe, from an early age, he was so locked into his vision, his goal to become, the best basketball player on the planet, that he didn't succumb to that pressure. And if you guys watch Michael Jordan's Last Dance, he talked about similar things as a rookie. His teammates were doing these things, and both of these guys said, "Nah, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to, be the greatest." And so it's easy. I know you guys hear about, peer pressure and things like that all the time, but it's easy to fall into those traps because we all have this sense of wanting to be accepted and wanting to be viewed as cool amongst our peers. So if the group is saying, "Hey, we're going to do that," and even though we know that it's not right, our parents, our mentors, whoever have taught us that this isn't the right thing to do, we want to be seen. We want to seem cool in front of our peers. So it's easy to fall into the trap and say, "Hey, even though I know I'm not supposed to do this, I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway." But it takes a strong willpower to say, "No, I'm not going to go with the crowd. I'm going to step away and do my own thing because I have a goal, I have a vision, I have a plan in place for my life." And I think that's probably the biggest thing for especially you guys, you being young, and I know you guys have dreams and want to be successful. You got to step away from the crowd.
Have you known any young basketball players who were coming up and then all of a sudden it all went down?
Oh yeah, a ton of them. I mean, there's more horror stories than there are success stories. Because, like I said, once you get all this money, this fame, this notoriety and access, when we're young coming up, we can only imagine certain things. But once you get to a certain level of popularity, there's people that want to be in your life just so they could try to take advantage of your situation. So Len Bias is somebody he's older than I was, but he's someone who had a lot of potential. He could have been one of the best players in the NBA, but he had people in his circle that didn't have his best interests at heart. And so he was one of the top draft picks coming out of college at the University of Maryland, and they had a party, and he overdosed on drugs and passed away. And so this is someone, like I said, that had the potential to be an all-star Hall of Fame player with the Boston Celtics. And, because of the crowd that he was with and things of that nature, ended up losing his life at an early age.
Parker, do you have any more questions?
I do. Do you have a specific position that you train usually, like guard or forward? It doesn't matter.
No, I train everybody, man. So I'm about to, as soon as I get done with you guys, I'll work out Eric Gordon from the Houston Rockets. Like I said, I was with Trae Young yesterday. Then later this afternoon, I have PJ Tucker, who's the center for the Houston Rockets, and Jeff Green, who's the backup center for the Houston Rockets. So because of my years in the NBA and kind of being around a ton of different coaches, a ton of different players, and watching a lot of film, I feel like I'm, able to help the levels at all positions.
Oh, someone has a question.
Yeah.
Demetri Nunn asks, what was your first decision for a sport in your career?
And what do they mean by that? Like picking which sport I'm going to play?
I think so.
Yeah, so I played basketball, football growing up, and I love football. College football is my favorite sport, even more than basketball. I love college football. I'm from Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma, college football is king. And so I was always a football fan, but I knew for myself, I was never really like a natural athlete. I just wasn't gifted with a bunch of, speed and agility. Like that wasn't my thing. So I played and I loved it, but I knew my ticket was going to be basketball. So I think around ninth grade, I kind of came to that conclusion, like, hey, I'm going to focus full time on basketball, but I think everyone should play every sport growing up because there's so many things that you take from other sports, and then whatever sport that you feel like you're going to focus on later, you can take things from those other sports like football, whether it's the aggression, the footwork, soccer, definitely the footwork, the speed that you have to have, to play that game. There's different things that you take, and they can roll over to the sport that you end up focusing on. The best athletes in the world all play multiple sports. You guys see videos of LeBron James playing football, Allen Iverson playing football, Michael Jordan playing baseball. All the best players play multiple sports.
Joseph has a question. He says, Who did you look up to as a kid? Any special athletes?
Yeah, Michael Jordan, man. Michael Jordan was my favorite player growing up because, like I said, I've always been drawn to people that, really, really worked for what they had. And so Michael Jordan, obviously a great athlete, but the thing that was special about Michael Jordan that I'm sure you guys have heard, Michael Jordan was cut from the basketball team in high school. He didn't make the team.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to go back to the drawing board and really work hard to, get to the level that he ended up getting to. And so whether it's Michael Jordan, Floyd Mayweather, any of these special athletes, the work that they had to put into to get to where they are, like I've always been drawn to that because, obviously none of us come out of the womb as the greatest, as the best. And so, it's just a good teaching point for, kids you guys' age to learn and, kind of follow that path as far as whatever you're going to try to do on or off the field.
How's your relationship with James Harden?
With James, James is, one of the greatest players to play the game. And, we've been friends since he was 19. And, as you get older and, things start to happen in life, you have more distraction and you're being pulled in every different direction. But, we've always been, pretty cool. We had a good work relationship. I don't hang out with these guys outside of the court because for me, it's kind of a conflict, being their coach. I'm not going to be, I'm not trying to be their best friend and their homeboy and all that stuff. I just want to coach basketball and influence the game on that side, and then I stay out of the way everywhere else.
What advice would you give female athletes?
Yeah, female athletes, I think the best thing that females can do is work out and play basketball with boys, because when you're a top female athlete, it's a lot of times it's hard to find other females that have the passion that you have, especially for this game. So it's best to work out and play against boys. College basketball players, female basketball players, WNBA players, every day they practice against guys because you're getting used to that physicality, to that length, that athleticism, and then that pushes you to be more creative, to be tougher and stuff like that. And so that's how all the top players get better. As soon as I get done, like I said, with you guys, I'm going to go work out Eric Gordon and a female WNBA player, and they'll work out together. And for her, that's kind of pushing her, to get to the next level.
How long did you practice or study film before training somebody?
For everybody, that is going to be different, especially for you all, because, you're kids, you have school, you have chores, you have things that your parents and stuff like that, your mentors need you to do every day. So you have to carve out time that you're going to dedicate to that. And it might be different for everybody. Some people might not have the same chores as the next person. They might not have the responsibility based on their family structure. So you have to find time where you're not playing video games. You're not on TikTok and doing all these different things. You got to find time to say, hey, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to go run around the neighborhood a couple times and run a couple miles before school. If you have access to a goal, all right, I'm going to carve out time instead of, sleeping late. I'm going to go get some extra shots or I'm going to watch film. It's storming today, so I'm going to get on YouTube and watch Chris Paul pick and roll. So you have to carve out time, and any free time that you do have that you want to dedicate to the game, you need to do that. And like I was saying with Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or whoever, they really exhausted themselves every day trying to be better. So for someone that might be 6 hours a day that you had time to go do that after doing your homework and all these things that are more important. But for someone that might only be a good hour that they had to dedicate to the game outside of whatever they were doing with their team. So everybody, like I said, it's going to be different, but you guys know you can be honest with yourselves if you're really giving it your all.
I have another question. What made you go to the training standpoint of basketball instead of anything else? Like, what are you training?
Yeah, I mean, the training aspect makes me happy because I can connect with the players. I can, you build these relationships. When you're a coach and you're doing, you're focusing on X's and O's, you're not really that tied in with the players. You go out, you draw up plays and stuff like that, but you're not that connected with the guys. I'm with my guys on the court every day, trying to figure out what we can do to help develop their game. So, I have a passion for that because you get to connect with the players more.
Are you happy the NBA is returning? And if not, why not?
I am because my guys I've been in Houston living at a hotel for the past 3 months. I live in LA. So I've been in Houston the past 3 months living at a hotel, training all my guys till they go back. So I'm happy they're going back so I can go back home.
All right.
Do you think the Rockets can get deep in the playoffs without a center, like a center?
I think it's going to be hard because to win a championship, you got to have defense. And what I mean by that, like they can defend, but you got to have rim protection as far as shot blocking, and you have to be able to rebound at a high level. So it's going to be tough, but with the speed and the versatility that they have on the perimeter, playing small ball and stuff like that, I think they're capable. It's just with the landscape and with the way the NBA is right now, with all these guys taking all this time off to come back, anybody could win. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks could win, to be honest, because a lot of these guys haven't been touching the basketball. A lot of these guys aren't in shape. So anything can happen, honestly.
What is one lesson you learned that you wish you knew at a younger age?
Yeah, so for me, teaching the game the way I do now, I wish I would have understood the game of basketball as far as the hows and the whys earlier. When I was growing up, we didn't have what you guys have in terms of social media, YouTube. You guys have so many different advantages that we didn't have. So our coaches were just yelling at us to go play hard. And now you guys have, some of the top coaches and trainers breaking down the game in the finer points of the game, where we were just going out and just winging it. Like if Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Penny Hardaway or something did a move in a game, we saw it live and it's like ooh and ah. But you guys can see James Harden, Stephen Curry, Trae Young. You could see these guys do a move in a game, and then the next thing you know, 30 minutes to an hour later, the top coaches are breaking down that move as far as the footwork and what you need to do to execute that move. You will have that on your phone, on your tablet, an hour later, and you guys can go out and work on that move. We didn't have those advantages.
Do you think the Grizzlies have a good chance of going into the playoffs?
I think they can make the playoffs. They're not good enough to, make a deep run right now. I'd prefer, as much as I love Ja, I'd prefer to see Portland make the playoffs because I'd like to see Portland play the Lakers with CJ, Dame, Nurkic probably be back, Carmelo, and all that stuff. So I'd prefer to see Portland play the Lakers than the Grizzlies right now because they just don't have enough to compete at this point.
When you train younger athletes, do you train high school players or middle school players? Like what kind of younger athletes do you train?
All the way down to elementary school, man. Players of all ages.
So you have different camps in different spots.
Yeah, so it just depends on where I am. So I go overseas. I do a lot of primarily right now. My business is based out of the country, but because of coronavirus, a lot of international borders are shut down. When the NBA got shut down in March, I was in Russia. And then the last couple months, I've had to cancel multiple things in different countries because of the inability to travel at this point. But I work with kids all the way down to third, fourth grade, all the way up to, like I said, the NBA.
How was it training with Trey Young?
Trey is like a little brother to me. I've known him since he was in school. So we're both from Oklahoma. So we've had a relationship, for years. And like I said, he's like family. So it's no different than training. If I was in the gym with you guys, man, we working. So he and I talk almost every day, mainly not even about basketball. We just have a, really good relationship. So we're together quite a bit. So, it's just a different type of working relationship because we have that off the court bond.
Do you have any advice for players and athletes that don't make it to the pros?
Yeah. The main thing that I would tell you guys is and even the young ladies listening is do either one of y'all watch the show The Chi? Y'all probably too young for The Chi. Y'all need to be looking.
I know my parents do.
Okay, good. Yeah, y'all too young for that unless it's a edited version. But last night was the season premiere of The Chi. And, when I first got the call to come talk to you all about this subject with Miss Erica, I think, one of the main things that stood out and like it was reiterated on The Chi last night, there's a young lady on the show. She runs track. And she was telling one of her friends how she was preparing to go to college to run track, but she wasn't that excited about it because she doesn't love track as much as she used to. And what you guys are going to find out is a lot of times when you play these sports for so long, at some point, you might still love the game, but you don't have the passion to go out and practice every day, to compete every day. Like at some point you kind of lose that. Some people do, some people don't, but I know I kind of did. But what you got to realize is with sports, sports is no matter what anybody says, it's just a game, right? Like people say, oh, ball is life and all this stuff. I'm a Christian. I don't know how many people on here are believers. I always say, look, that sports, it's a tool, right? Sports, they weren't in the Bible. Basketball ain't in the Bible. The 12 disciples, they weren't playing basketball. They weren't playing 5-on-5. So basketball is a tool for us to use to get to where we want to get in life. Football, baseball, whatever it is, it's a tool. So we got to remember that we have to use these games to get to where we want to get. We can't let these games use us. And a lot of times is, black men and women, that's our only outlet. We feel like a lot of times is, well, I got to do this. I got to play ball. I got to do this. And so I kind of figured out at an early age, I wasn't going to play in the NBA, but I had a vision of what I wanted my life to be. And I knew I could use basketball to get there. And so, like I said, I knew financially my parents weren't in a position to pay for my college without having to take out a bunch of loans and being in debt and stuff like that. So I knew that if I could get, a college basketball scholarship, I could take that burden off of them and help further my education for free. And then once I started to meet the right people and network, as you guys will one day realize, it's not always about what you know, it's about who you know as well. And so once I started to network and navigate these different relationships, I knew that I could get my foot in the door in the NBA, which is what I wanted to work in. If I, educated myself in the game of basketball enough, met the right people. And so because of that, I'm year 16 working with NBA players, working in, with NBA teams. And, for you all, whatever your goal is, you can use basketball to, like I said, navigate these different circles.
Where's your training studio?
I train everywhere. So I live in LA, but that's home base. But I train everywhere, all over the world. The last couple months, like I said, because of coronavirus, not being able to travel, I was supposed to be in Australia. I'm in Australia a lot of times, and that's another thing. Because of what I do, I never thought in a million years I would be at this point. I've been in Australia 5 times. I've been to China 5 times. And, I never in a million years thought that I'd be able to travel to all these places. And, man, I've been to Paris 3 times. I've been all over the world because of the game of basketball. So I don't have one place that I train, and that's the beauty of it. I can go anywhere in the world. I'm here at a church right now in Houston about to train, multiple players from the Rockets and different teams, players that live here in Houston. And then I'll go back to LA. I have different players that live there that I train. I'm from Oklahoma, so when I leave Houston, I go to Oklahoma for like a week and work with Trae Young a little bit, then go to LA. Then I got to go to Spain and work with some professional players as well as kids over there. So I really train all over the world. And because, like I said, what I do, I don't have to be stuck in one place. I can see the world.
What is it like training kids overseas? Is there a difference compared to American kids?
There's a huge difference. And the difference is kids in America have a sense of entitlement because the top players in America, they're celebrities before they've even proven anything. So you guys, if you have Instagram and stuff like that, there's a number of players on the high school level in America that have huge social media followings. They have 1 million, 2 million followers and all that stuff, more followers than a lot of NBA players, and they haven't even accomplished anything. And so by the time they get to college, their minds are a little messed up because they're basically celebrity, even though they haven't accomplished anything. So those players overseas, their grind and their mentality is a little bit different because they haven't been, kind of tainted by, the way the world views them. They're really hungry to get to where these American players are kind of viewed. So it's a little more fun and rewarding to work with those players because, like I said, when you are given too much early, it's kind of hard to reel those people back in because they don't work as hard, they don't listen the same way, so it's a little difficult.
Speaking about overseas players, do you train pros over there too?
Yes, I train players at all levels. So what happens is once a country knows that I'm coming to visit, they try to book up my time. So it'll be a youth organization that might reach out and say, hey, can you get on the court with these middle school kids? It might be a travel team type setup where can you work with some of the top high school players? And then it'll be and then even over there, if you guys are familiar with Luka Doncic that plays for the Mavericks, Luka was a pro when he was 13, 14 years old. So those guys overseas, they go pro earlier. That's why Luka, is as skilled as he is now. He's been playing against pros since he was in middle school, basically. So, I'm working with kids, like I said, all the way from elementary school for our age, all the way up into, 30-something years old, professional players.
When you traveled around the world, never mind, not that question. If we ever would want to get a workout with you, how would we set that up?
Yeah, so you guys, you got my information. You could reach out to me. Are you guys in Dallas, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I was in Dallas. I had a clinic in Dallas on Saturday, and right outside Dallas in Crowley, Texas. But all you guys got to do is reach out to me, and we kind of figure it out in the schedule and go from there. But that's how I do most of my stuff. People reach out to me on Instagram, and then we try to fit it in the schedule.
When you travel around the world, what country do you like the best?
That's tough. That's really tough. I love New Zealand. You guys know RJ Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so RJ played in New Zealand, and I actually was over there 2 months before RJ got over there to start playing. And so he and I talked about, I was like, man, you're going to end up loving the country. And his parents actually moved out there with him while he was playing. And if they didn't have a younger son, they said they probably would have stayed. But it's a beautiful, beautiful country. I love Italy as well. Once I get older, I've strongly considered retiring in Italy. It's different. Like in America, I think because of coronavirus, everybody has kind of been forced to slow down. Obviously, we can't move around and do the things we're accustomed to doing. and we've had to spend more time, with our families and, be home. And that's how things used to be back in the day, where families were having meals together and, weren't on their phones all day and stuff like that. And so in Italy and some of these foreign countries, their priorities are a lot different. It's more family oriented. It's not as much about the hustle and bustle and the grind every day. It's about, enjoying your loved ones and just, really taking in life and enjoying life. And I think too many times here in America, we kind of just get caught up with the everyday grind and trying to, grow our brand and our business. And things are too fast paced, and we don't get a time to just sit back and, kind of enjoy what God has given us.
Do you think the way the high school players are getting to the NBA now, by like going overseas and going to the G League and stuff like that, is better than going to college?
Yeah. So I'm not big on traditional education unless you are going into a specific field. If you're trying to be a doctor, a lawyer, something like that, where you need a degree, I think college is huge. I think the college experience is huge. But at the same time, as you guys are learning with everything going on in our world right now, a lot of times education, we miss out. Like there's so many things that are taught in school that I've never used once in my life. Like I've never had to use X plus Y equals any. I don't have to do that ever. And so especially as Black men and women, we don't get to learn about our own history in school. So I think for any other field in the world, if you are going to for something specific, then that's fine. But all these guys that want to be professional basketball players, if you can go overseas and make money immediately, a lot of these guys are making high six figures. If you have the right people in your circle that can help you manage that money, which is also something that you don't learn in school, there's not too many jobs where in school you're going to be able to make six figures that early out of school. It's going to take you years to get to that type of salary. So I think if you want to be a professional basketball player, and you can be a professional basketball player at 18, 19, now you have the resources to, manage your money correctly and, build correctly. As far as, independent wealth, you can learn about, real estate and things like that. 18, 19, you're investing your money properly. By the time you're 25, 30 years old, even if you didn't become Zion Williamson, you can have yourself set up for life instead of going to college, getting a degree in a field that you probably don't want to be in, and then being in debt and having to pay back school loans or anything like that. A lot of these guys, when they go to college, especially if they're athletes, they're not going to get degrees that are helping set them up if they don't make it to the pros. You know what I'm saying? And so there's some guys, there's NFL players, there's NBA players that have gone and gotten degrees in fields that they were interested in, whether it was, trying to be a lawyer, trying to be a doctor, things of that nature. But I just think most of the time guys aren't going to school with that type of mindset. And so if you can find a way to build independent wealth earlier, I think that's the biggest thing we need to focus on, is understanding money and spending our money the right way. We listen to these rappers talking about buying all these cars, buying all this jewelry, and that's not the way to do it. That stuff is, it's going to depreciate. There's not going to be much value in it. And the next thing you know, we're going to be going broke. So I think we need to do a better job of, self-educating and learning things that we don't properly, get in school.
And you said you do train female athletes?
Yeah, I'm about to get on on the court right now with a WNBA player.
Okay. How can a student know if they have the skills to play in the pros, overseas, or in college?
Yeah, someone will tell you. I think, anytime, like I was saying, the female players need to play against guys, guys always need to play against better players. So there's going to be places where older high school players, college players, professional players are playing pickup. You need to play against those guys to kind of push yourself and to kind of gauge yourself. But if you're playing in a team type atmosphere, whether it's a travel team, a high school team, your coaches are going to let you know where you are. And there's going to be rankings. There's going to be evaluations. There's going to be, people in your circle or whatever level you are to kind of let you know where you are.
Do you think your ranking in high school matters?
No. There's so many players. Stephen Curry, for instance, wasn't, and that's a good topic right there. So Stephen Curry, coming out of high school, was not ranked, right? The number one player in the country at his position at that time was Javaris Crittenton. You guys are too young to remember. Javaris Crittenton played at Georgia Tech. He was with the Lakers for a little bit, but then was with the Wizards. And so probably when you guys were almost born, Javaris Crittenton got into an incident with Gilbert Arenas, where they got into an altercation and they both pulled their guns on each other in the locker room. So they were both, suspended for a while. And then Javaris Crittenton ended up being involved in a murder, and now he's in prison. So here's a guy who was projected to be all-star, whatever. And then you have Stephen Curry, who wasn't ranked in school, ended up being an all-star future Hall of Famer. And so all those rankings and stuff, it doesn't matter. Two, I think too many times people feed into that early. And then when you feed into it early, like I was talking about the American players versus the European players, when you feed into that early, like I met kids that were supposed to be the top 5th grader in the country and the top 6th grader. All that stuff is cool, but what if that kid stops growing? What if that kid stops, loving and having a passion for the game? And so some of these kids start to believe that stuff early, and they stop developing. There's a kid named 7th Woods that he was hot probably 6-7 years ago. So he was the same age as Dennis Smith Jr. and Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox and those guys. He had one of the best freshman years any high school player can have, and then it just all fell apart because he stopped growing and stopped developing. And so, all those rankings and stuff are awesome, but unless you continue to work, unless you continue to stay locked in and stay in the right crowds and the right circles, it's not going to mean a thing.
If you could talk to your younger self and give advice on what you know now, what would you say?
Yeah, I think, dedicating my time, my focus, my passion, my energy to my craft, to the game of basketball would definitely have been different as far as my work ethic every day and how much time I spent with the game outside of basketball. I know you guys, you get into that age where you starting to talk to girls and stuff like that. And I know at that age, everybody does it. There's movies been made about it. When you're dating in middle school, high school, you think you're gonna get married to this person, so you spending all your time with this person, and in reality, 99.9% of the time, you're not gonna be with that person that long. And I think just all that time, just whether it's talking to girls, anything that isn't going into your academic world or your athletic world, if it's not fueling that, then it's really a distraction outside of your family, your religion, and things like that really matter. Those are really the only things that we should be trying to pour our lives into: our family, our religion, school, our athletics, because outside of that, you guys only have a small window of development. And at your age, you guys can pick up things so fast, but then there comes a certain age where that growth and everything kind of slows down, and you're going to look back and say, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And so the goal is to, try to limit the number of regrets you have when you get, my age.
I remember you talking about you being a coach. You were a coach. What do you look at in a player? Do you look at that player's IQ, attitude, or that person's skill? And what do you think is that player the furthest in their career?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is a player's passion for the game. Do they love the game of basketball? because if you have that, then we can work with everything else. If it's a kid or a player that isn't self-motivated, that you kind of always have to be coaching their effort, those aren't the players I want. They could be the most talented player in the world, but if they don't want to work, if they're not self-motivated, then I'm always having to push them and coach their effort. Then I have to coach their effort. Then I have to coach, their ability up. It's just too draining for me. But if I know you want to work, I know you have a passion for it. Now I could throw all these different things at you. And I know you're going to grind and you're going to put the time in away from me. Then now we can build.
All right, we're going to start the closing.
Okay.
Do you have plans to stay around the game of basketball if you ever stop training? And what would the next level look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, in my age, man, I don't want to be on the court all day, every day. It's cool. I like I said, I have a passion for it. But at some stage, I'll probably get back with the NBA team and work in the front office. I want to help develop a culture as far as being able to hire coaches, hire trainers, being able to draft and trade players and build, something similar to what the Miami Heat or the San Antonio Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder, all these top organizations and stable organizations have built. That's probably, the long-term vision.
Okay. What advice do you give to students usually when they ask you about their potential?
As far as players,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, it's different. I have different levels of players. I have players that are older that are just starting, but the main thing, like I said, is to continue to educate yourself on the finer points of the game. Like I said, you guys have so many different resources that I didn't have, and so I think that's the main thing is to, constantly be trying to figure out how you can improve and eliminate some of your weaknesses. You guys, if you're a right-handed player and you get on the court and they're like, oh, he can't or she can't use her left hand, like, what are you doing every day to work on your offhand? What are you doing every day to improve your shooting? What are you doing every day to improve your IQ? Because those two things right there, if you can shoot the ball and you can think the game, you can play this game for a long time. You look at LeBron James, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Kobe Bryant. These guys were really smart. They could make shots. And so when you do that, you could play for a long time because if you're athletic, if you're an athletic player, that stuff is going to die down at some point. You're not going to be as athletic in your later years. So if you could shoot the game like Vince Carter, for instance, when I was growing up, when I was y'all's age, he was an amazing athlete and was dunking on everybody and all that stuff. But as he got older, that athleticism declined, but he could still make shots. He was still a good leader, still a good person in the locker room. So that allowed him to be able to play the game till he was, early 40s.
Also, I have another question. So some kids, they do very well in practice, but when it comes to the game, they lack the performance. And I want to know what type of mental blocks do you think kids set up that stop them from doing what they did in practice in the game?
Yeah, I think that's all about confidence. There's a lot of NBA players like that too that, are lights out in practice, but then when the lights come on, as we kind of say, they kind of, dwindle. And I think all that is confidence and the fear of failure, because you start to overthink, and it's like, oh, well, what if I miss this shot, or what if I turn the ball over? And so I think it was Michael Jordan that said, why would I think about a shot that I haven't? Why would I think about missing a shot I haven't even taken yet? But from our work, we're able to build confidence. So Kobe Bryant, these guys working out 3 times a day and getting up hundreds of shots in practice when nobody's watching. Now when you have thousands and millions of people watching, now you have the confidence to go out there and perform.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Irv Rowland, for joining us today. Thank you, everybody else. And don't forget to do the activities on the Beyond the Ball site and the Mamba Mindset activities to get your prizes. Also, stay at 2 so we can start the meeting of the Power Hands entrepreneurs and the CEOs.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I'm gonna
All
need you
right,
to come
have a
to
good one.
one day, man.
All right, definitely.
All right, man.
All right.